We're talking about star power. Who's gonna put butts in seats?
You're telling me Henry Cavill puts
Henry
butts in
Cavill
seats?
put my buns in seats. Welcome to Super Debatable. I'm Akeem Lewontin.
And I'm Joshua Yale.
Now on the docket today, James Gunn's DCEU. Now DC Snyderverse movies have been notorious over the last decade for having a less than cohesive plan than Marvel's usually carefully plotted MCU. Now they put the cart before the horse done tripped over the cart and broke its legs, and now Warner Brothers have called in the big guns, James Gunn and Peter Safran, to put it out to pasture. But can their stallion of a plan for the DCU's Chapter 1 Gods and Monsters run strong and free on its own? Or do Gunn and Safran need to toss both horses into the Lazarus pit and see what kind of doomsday-esque hell horse gallops out to keep Snyder's vision in the mix? We'll have a separate debate on whether that horse analogy tracks, but for now, Joshua, the floor is yours.
James Gunn and Peter Safran should absolutely nuke the Snyderverse. What the DCU needs above all else is a fresh start. Regardless of what you think about the Snyderverse, forging ahead without a cohesive plan didn't work out. It's over. The future is the Gunverse, and in order for it to be successful, it needs to do its own thing, unbeholden to what came before. The Snyderverse had its own multifaceted continuity that ran for years, and trying to continue it wouldn't do it justice anyway, because James Gunn is not Zack Snyder. Besides, the last time a Marvel guy came in to pick up where Snyder left off, it didn't work out very well. No, James Gunn deserves a clean slate to build the new DC universe. So the only way forward is a hard reboot, and that means out with the old actors, the pre-existing continuity, and the desaturated Keller palette too. Get that out of here. But any DC Comics fan should be used to the idea of a reboot by now. It's actually lucky that the upcoming Flash movie is doing Flashpoint, which rebooted the DC Comics universe and ushered in the New 52, and I loved it. The characters were refreshed, the old continuity was wiped clean, and everything was synced up to crossover and build to something big. And guess what? DC's sales went through the roof, and for the first time in decades, DC beat Marvel on the sales charts. So by doing a reboot for the DCU, the same could happen for the movies, and the TV shows, and the games, and everything else. James Gunn knows all this. He's a long-time comic book fan. Just look at the wildly popular Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He knows how to adapt comics successfully. He's been working with Kevin Feige for years, so he's learned what makes the MCU work firsthand. So more than anyone, he knows what the DCU needs. And he's aiming to deliver it with a plan. He's given us a roadmap of what to expect from Chapter 1, and he's building to a specific endgame. Wow, that is literally everything we say we want when we talk about cinematic universes. And if the price we have to pay is Henry Cavill's Superman, allow me to stab him with a doomsday bone spear myself.
You're breaking my heart. Like you just stabbed me.
Right
Oh
through.
my goodness. Now, I couldn't disagree with you more, Joshua. No, James Gunn should not get rid of the Snyderverse. Now, James Gunn was brought in to save the DCU. Give it clear direction, not come in hot and completely disregard what Zack Snyder's built and established in the DC Extended Universe. Now, since 2013's release of Man of Steel, Zack's been cooking up a rather impressive cast of superheroes, slowly assembling the Justice League alongside DC Studios' old regime. And while not all of the members of his Justice League have that sweet, soft sheen that just makes them glisten on the silver screen, there's one man of steel that does, and his name is Henry Cavill. He's the only saving grace the Snyderverse has left. Like, he's literally the last son of Krypton. Now, Cavill's still willing to return, and if Superman returns, so will audiences. And even though there's a search for a new Superman for Superman Legacy, with the newly established DC Elseworlds set of films that lay outside of the mainline DCU entries, isn't it possible to maintain the Snyderverse? Like, isn't the Flash set to bring the multiverse together? Aren't Zack Snyder and James Gunn friends, or did they just hate each other on the set of Dawn of the Dead? Like, maybe their friendship is dead, or it will be after dismantling the Snyderverse. Now, you know what? Maybe all these superhero movies James directed has gone to his frickin' head. Like, he's got director cred on 6, count them, 6 superhero movies. The 3 Guardians movies, the Suicide Squad movie, the upcoming Superman Legacy film, and that movie that's a little bit on the nose called Super. It's literally called Super.
Shut up, crime.
Now that's 6 movies. You wanna know what else there's 6 of? The Infinity Stones. I think I know what's going on here. This man thinks he's the IRL Thanos and blipping the Snyderverse out of existence. Well, James Gunn, this is no longer directed to Joshua. This is directed to you, James Gunn. This is one instance where you shouldn't go for the head if you want to get ahead of the MCU. Because clearing the roster and starting all over will only put you behind the competition.
Well, I have a couple things I actually wanted to say about your point. First of all, you said you wanted to like save the DC universe. You can't save what's already dead. It's been critically panned. It's, box office hasn't been so hot. The writing's on the wall that whatever they were doing with the Snyderverse wasn't working, and it's time to reboot. And that's what James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing.
But you know how long it's going to take for that to happen? We are 8 to 10 years. It's already been stated. 8 to 10 years for that to happen. Now, this is the thing. I don't know if you understand this, but that's a long-ass time. That's a long time. I don't even know if we're still going to be working here at IGN. Who knows where we're going to be 8 to 10 years from now? We might be out of this business on an island somewhere.
We should slow down, because I don't know if I could go live on an island with somebody who says that it would put DC behind the competition if they don't keep some of the Snyderverse around.
100%.
They're already behind the competition.
Look, if you're talking about like box office and all that stuff, yes, I agree with that. But the thing is, if we start looking at it as chapters, they're in chapter 1, the MCU is in chapter 5. Mm-hmm. You know exactly how many years it's taken us to get here.
But the Snyderverse didn't really build to anything. I know you don't want to lose all the work they've done, but the work they didn't really amount to anything. There was no like setup and payoff. They rushed ahead. I love how earlier in your argument you said they slowly built up the members of the Justice League. No, they rushed the Justice League onto screen without setting them up properly. That would be like if the MCU started with the Avengers and then did all the other movies. No. That's what got us into this mess in the first place. But James Gunn, he didn't even put a Justice League on the docket. He just wants to start with Superman, Supergirl, Swamp Thing, some other sort of niche characters, and then later down the line, he's probably gonna bring them all together. But right now, I think what matters is just getting the characters right in their own movies with a clean, fresh slate. You can't do that if you're beholden to everything that happened for 8 to 10 years in the Snyderverse.
Well, this is the thing though. If we're creating something called DC Elseworlds, if that's a thing that's going to exist where certain movies lay outside the mainline DCU that James Gunn and Peter Safran are working on, is it not possible to still maintain certain elements of the Snyderverse? And I'm not saying that we need to maintain everything, because I feel like, all right, so there's three characters in my opinion that I think should be saved from the Snyderverse. If we're not actually looking at like, all right, let's just save like whole cart, let's just take it all in. I'm looking at Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Henry Cavill's Superman, and Darkseid. I think those were three strong characters. All we need is an ideal story and like an exceptional director. So we can have elements of the Snyderverse still involved in the DCU, in my opinion.
So what you're saying is you don't like Jason Momoa as Aquaman?
Did I say anything about Aquaman?
Yeah, you didn't. Sounds like he got cut. He got cut hook, line, and sinker.
Let's not bring up people that I didn't name. Let's only focus on the ones that I did name. Because I'm talking about like star power. The thing is, at least Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill, like those characters, they have potential for growth and thrive. And I feel like they could thrive in the DCU. Even if we're still going to establish a new Superman, if we're still going to do that with Superman Legacy, again, there's still ways to justify having Henry Cavill, a man who's willing, he's willing to return as the Man of Steel. He wants to return.
I don't know. Henry Cavill's already played Superman across multiple movies, and really he's done his time as the character. Why can't we just celebrate that and end that and then start with something new and fresh? James Gunn's casting, we don't know who, but he said it's going to be a younger Superman.
Yeah.
Who's going to again start a clean, fresh story, and we're going to watch that character grow and become the hero we all know and love, Superman. I think that's what we need. We need a fresh break from everything that came before. We've already seen like all of Superman's most iconic things. Honestly, the most iconic thing he ever does in the comics is die. He's already done that. But I think now it's time to do something different.
I'm okay with seeing something different, but as someone who is a fan of Zack Snyder, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are probably on my side, you're probably a fan of Zack Snyder as well. If you want us to buy in to whatever you're creating, Mr. Gunn, if you want us to buy, you're not Mr. Gunn, Mr. Gunn. But if you want us to buy in, why would you just nuke an entire universe that was already created? Like that's what I want you to focus on. I want you to tell me, why is it not possible for little elements of the Snyderverse to exist when we have something called DC Elseworlds?
I will say that the studio only has enough time and money to make a certain amount of movies, so they can't forge ahead with a brand new DC universe and also be beholden to this other universe and like do little spin-offs and that have nothing to do with this. So they want a cohesive vision of one thing. I just think it would be a mistake to try and hold on to things from the past that just weren't working when you could just start fresh and get it right.
But we're talking, okay, we're also talking about star power. We're talking about star power. Who's gonna put butts in seats?
You're telling me Henry Cavill puts
Henry
butts in
Cavill
seats?
put my buns in seats. I mean,
buns
just
of
one
steel?
seat.
Buns of steel?
Yeah, he put my buns of steel. He is our generation Superman. Would you agree to that?
I would not agree to that. I actually really like Tyler Hoechlin's Superman from the Superman and Lois TV show. Like that's the ideal
Is that
Superman
your
for
generation
me.
Superman?
I mean, he's currently.
Or is that just a Superman that you appreciate?
No, I think that is like the Superman. I think it's the best modern Superman we have. Yeah.
Wow. That's you want to say what I was about to say about you? I was gonna say that's a super debate for another time,
That's
sir.
fair.
I feel like we can go back and forth on this all day, but Josh, I want to give you final thoughts.
Well, my final thoughts are that it seems like you kind of have a crush on Henry Cavill. I just hope things work out for you too. But no, I do. I think I appreciate that there are a lot of things in the Snyderverse that are great and that were really enjoyable. I thought Zack Snyder's Justice League was amazing, was epic, was so good. But I also think that era of the DC universe is best left in the past. That era is over. James Gunn has been given the power to restart with a plan in mind, which the original DC universe didn't really have much of. And I think that's great. So, and if that means jettisoning everything that came before, then goodbye.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'll definitely say this. DC definitely has seemed like it was lost for a while, and it's nice to see that James Gunn is helping them find their way. But getting rid of an entire universe that was established before you stepped into that seat, that throne, you stepped on that throne, is a disgrace. And I want you to think about it. I'm no longer talking to you. This is my final thought to Mr. Gunn, because I know he's gonna see this. I'm gonna share it with him. Think about what you're doing. Think about your buddy Zach. Think about the times when you worked on that Dawn of the Dead movie. Remember that? Remember the good times before you get rid of his entire universe. This is great.
This was really fun.
This is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, that's such a great time. Well, hey, you know what? We started this super debate. Now it's up to you to finish it. Now sound off in the comment section down below whether or not you think James Gunn should nuke the Snyderverse or not. We'll see you next time.